Chapter 41 Exploration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman is ready to explore this land. The area occupied by Siggy town in the entire basin can barely be regarded as the tip of the iceberg. Occupying the position of the Basin Gorge, in the north are tens of thousands of acres of cultivated land. If there were no such land, Siggy town would be just an insignificant black spot on a white paper if viewed from a high altitude. There are many places to explore, but they are also full of dangers. The wilderness refers to the primitive places with dangerous environments, with a large number of wetlands such as swamps, streams, and lakes. Swamps will eat people, forests have beasts, and those unexplored areas are even more difficult to move. Roman, Gwyler, and Green formed an expedition team, with 2 horses. Gwyler can't ride a horse, so she and Roman share one, and carry a small amount of daily necessities, and set off like this, without followers and cooks. Too many people are just a burden and the progress is slow. The more streamlined the number of people, the better, and it is easier to move. Roman and his 2 companions rode forward for more than 10 kilometers, but they had to dismount because they entered a swamp. They carefully avoided those natural traps and found a passable road. Sometimes they had to turn back when they reached a dead end. The town of Siggy also explored those wild places, but the progress was extremely slow, and they couldn't even provide a detailed map. If Roman didn't come, decades later, because the population of Siggy town increased automatically, they would most likely cross the swamps and forests in the north and build new towns and villages on the opposite prairie. By noon, the 3 had only advanced 30 or 40 kilometers. Roman was not impatient. They found a safe camp in the swamp. Green took down the iron pot, and Gwyl collected firewood and made a fire to boil water. A moment later, Roman came back with 2 otters shot by arrows. Hunting experience +1. Hunting is mainly to improve skill levels through hunting. Roman had already gained shallow wilderness survival experience by shooting wild beasts. He also had a preliminary ability to deal with prey. The skin was peeled off with clumsy movements, the head and internal organs were shaved off, and the meat was put on a stick for roasting. Gwyler sat on the tree root next to the fire, staring at the meat in the fire with her big, bright eyes, and salivating. The roasting work presided over by Roman was not successful. Specifically, it tasted like coal. This made Roman frown, thinking that maybe he should bring Dota along, as the latter was an experienced hunter and must have the ability to roast, but the reminder of cooking experience +1 also made Roman give up this idea. Green looked at the charred meat. Can this be called roasting? Forgive me for being frank, I have never seen anyone who abuses things so badly in my life. Roman tore off a leg of meat, gently scraped off the carbonized layer on it with his fingernails, and then handed it to Gwyler. The girl was not picky, and she started to chew on the leg meat. It was easy to feed, and it seemed that the life in the manor these days did not feed her little mouth. Roman also tore off a piece of meat. He chewed it in his mouth and said incoherently, "Green, you eat it." Green's mouth twitched, and he was silent for 2 seconds, then said decisively, "I eat dry food." "You despise me. I hope you can keep this unruly attitude in the future." Green laughed immediately. "Even if I starve to death or die in the swamp, I will not eat something that even pigs won't eat." "You'd better remember what you said." Green said disdainfully, "I'm a knight, I have backbone." Gwyl blinked innocently. While the 2 were arguing, he secretly stuffed a piece of meat into his cheek, looking like a little squirrel. Roman looked at Green's bold words and just sneered without saying a word. "You wait. I'll brush up my cooking skills later." After a short break, continue moving forward. During this period, a small incident occurred. The horse stumbled and fell into the swamp. Although it was as cautious as possible, it still suffered a serious injury. Roman and Green had to drag the horse out of the swamp by force, wipe its body, and calm its emotions to prevent it from being frightened and sick. War horses are extremely expensive in themselves, and special war horses can be counted as magical beasts, carrying hundreds of kilograms of heavy objects and running freely. The Grand Duke of the Split Armor can breed this kind of war horse, otherwise, Roman would not have obtained these 5 horses when he split up. After all, a war horse on the market is worth 4 gold coins, and some special war horses are even more expensive, requiring more than a dozen or even dozens of gold coins. This made Roman attach great importance to it. Green and Gwyler followed Roman forward. Through this swamp area, in this era, traveling far away is itself an extremely risky thing. That's right, as long as you leave the human village for 40 or 50 kilometers, it is basically a long journey. The wilderness is vast. Once you go deep into it, it is basically impossible to return to the original path unless you have a photographic memory and a good sense of direction, but Roman did not have this concern. He had never seen a farmer get lost in his own farm. Story of Life would display a large map and its location, and soon, Roman found that his luck was a bit bad. When they were about to leave the swamp, an adult monster wild boar rushed towards them madly. Roman was carrying a split-armor bow and had noticed the wild boar's attack long before it attacked. When the wild boar was about 20 meters away, he shot an arrow through its skull, killing it very quickly. The wild animals here seem to have not withstood the beatings of the terrifying ape erectus. It's time to let them know for a long time. Sheedy's hunting experience +1. Unfortunately, Roman couldn't take them all away, so he simply cut off some 10 pounds of leg meat and tied it to the horse's back. Then, they encountered a dense forest. The dense shrubs blocked the entire ground, making it impossible for people to stay, let alone for horses to walk through it. It would be terrible if they encountered poisonous snakes, scorpions and other poisons. Roman had to take a detour. Also in the afternoon, Roman noticed that a resource area icon was displayed on the interface of Biology Story. That's a mineral icon. Not all minerals are as clearly labeled as iron, or most mineral veins are the same as jungles, and there may be anything in the mines. Roman has basic knowledge of geology and mineralogy. It took him some time to find a spot to survey. This site is located in a low-lying area, with a rugged rocky mountain covered with gravel and an extremely steep slope. There is no vegetation at all and the area is bare. Roman had no choice but to walk over and conduct a preliminary investigation. He rummaged through the pile of rubble, picked through it, and even dug into the mountain soil below. After searching for more than 10 minutes, he finally pulled out a vaguely crystal-clear stone from the ground several meters thick. It was like an ice cube, but the inside was white and not translucent. Roman sniffed it gently, then stuck out his tongue and licked it, then smiled broadly. Roman threw the stone to Green and said, "Try it." Green was stunned, then changed his position and licked it with his tongue. He soon tasted a rich, bitter and salty taste, which made him spit. "Is this?" Green blinked and his head didn't turn around for a while. Roman hummed softly, "Rock salt. There should be a salt mine under my feet, and the mineral layer is very shallow, maybe only a few meters or more than 10 meters. He felt that this low-lying land might have been a salt lake in the past. It was buried underground during long geological movements. After chemical precipitation, it gradually crystallized into this halide mineral. Green suddenly realized what the salt mine meant to Roman, and his eyes became hot. His adamantine sword and mithril armor are at his feet. Chapter 42 Gold Mine and Seeding. You are listening at novelfull.audio. According to the map, the straight-line distance between this salt mine and the town of Siggy is only 40 kilometers. It is not impossible to quickly clear out a mining and transportation route at any cost. The important thing is that the ore layer of this salt mine is very shallow, and it is not necessary to dig 100 meters deep. At most, 10 meters is enough. It is basically an open-air salt mine, which is quite rare. A salt mine was discovered, but Roman was not completely satisfied. He is a lord. To develop his territory, he needs a lot of resource support. Because he has no capital, he has no confidence to go out and rob now. He needs to continue to develop and raise a professional army, and resources come from labor and production. If there is no salt, go find other resources. If the ore vein is barren, then hunt wild animals and use fur to accumulate original capital. If the fur business cannot last long, then develop light industries, textiles, breeding, handicrafts, winemaking, shipbuilding, and planting cash crops. Anyway, the economy must be pulled up, and only with the economy can it be transformed into military power. Only with military power did he dare to go out and rob. Bang Bang gave them 2 punches, and all these industries need enough labor to participate in them in order to operate. Although farming is the basis of everything, it cannot bring more wealth. Roman hopes to find a large gold and silver mine that is easy to mine, or at least copper and iron mines. He is really not picky. the extraordinary resources in this world basically come from these veins. If you want to get rich overnight, you can only mine. Nothing is more important than mining, unless farming. Then, the three continued on their way. Roman found another trace of a coal mine, but it was located in the middle of the mountain, which was inconvenient to mine and required too much labor, so he chose to give up. The entire land here belongs to him. Roman feels that he is qualified to pick and choose the best mining location. It is difficult to advance in the wilderness. Sometimes it is a sparse plain, sometimes it is a steep valley, and sometimes it is a wet swamp. They ride horses and can't walk more than 70 or 80 kilometers a day. Roman's goal was clear: to find steep terrain, plateau valleys, etc. Because of the structure of the earth veins, the probability of mineral veins appearing in such terrains is very high. Before dark, Roman temporarily set up a campsite beside the stream, lit a bonfire with flint, and grilled wild boar meat during the day. His skills were still terrible. A little cooking experience could not directly turn Roman into a chef. Green chose to eat dry food. He thought to himself, "This is not a picnic, it is clearly to make dark dishes." As night fell, the bonfire did not go out. The bright and warm flames dispelled darkness and beasts. Roman covered Guile with a wool blanket, and he and Green slept against the tree trunk with their clothes on. The two had strong physical fitness and wore thick clothes, so they were not worried about catching a cold. At dawn the next day, they set off again. On this day, Roman kept lighting up the map and resource map. In the end, 3 stone mines and a gold mine were discovered. Yes, gold mine. Roman bit his finger and looked at the gold mine mark on the map. The output of this gold mine may not be much. It can only be regarded as a small vein, located in a steep and valley area. It is difficult to mine, but it is also a gold mine. The mining of these veins requires a lot of manpower and material resources. Roman exhaled lightly and calmed down. If you take too big a step, you may get hurt easily. There is a long way to go. After the expected goal was achieved, Roman took Green and Guile back. They returned to the Origin Manor in the afternoon of the 3rd day. The maids who had been waiting for a long time immediately came forward to help them unload various things. At the dinner table, Roman told Seth about the salt mine. This made the old butler with a conservative personality excited. He thought more deeply than Green. The main output of Siggy Town is selling food. If a salt mine is really discovered, then Siggy Town will have an additional industrial pillar. This is no longer development, but direct wealth. The coastal areas of this land have insufficient sunlight intensity, making it difficult to dry salt, while inland salt-producing land has always been scarce. The successful mining of a salt-producing land is often the result of the game between several powerful nobles. But now, the town of Siggy has discovered a salt mine. The profit is immeasurable, Roman said. The matter of the salt mine is not urgent for the time being. Are you going to sow tomorrow? Yes. Seth was a little absent-minded, still thinking about how much effect the salt mine has and the corresponding consequences it brings. It's okay in the short term, but in the long term, whether the Grand Duke of Lieja needs to intervene when necessary. Roman didn't know what Seth was thinking, but just nodded. It was the 19th day since he came to Siggy. Before the sun rose completely, Roman summoned all the active laborers, stewards, and guards in Siggy, and the selected good seeds and fermented fertilizers were transported to the fields by ox carts and horse carriages. Finally, in front of everyone, Roman personally demonstrated the specific details and steps of sowing. Manure is a nutritious organic fertilizer that can improve the soil structure, making it loose and soft with good air permeability. This is not only conducive to the growth and development of crop roots, but also helps to improve the soil's ability to retain water and fertilizer. Roman used strip fertilization and fertilizer supporting seeds, burying fertilizer in the soil 9 cm deep, and then sowing seeds 3 cm deep, using fertilizer to support wheat seeds. The fertilizer below will bear part of the nutrients needed for the germination and rooting of these wheat seeds. Roman demonstrated to them the approximate sowing amount and fertilizer amount. 100 tons of fertilizer seems to be a lot, but when it is spread out, 1 mu of land only has 100 kilograms of fertilizer, which is not enough. Good steel is used on the blade. Using strip sowing and strip fertilization can maximize the use of humus fertilizer and avoid waste. 5 kilograms of fertilizer is responsible for the nutrients of 1.5 kilograms of wheat seeds, which is extremely reluctant in Roman's opinion. According to the modern planting ratio, at least dozens of kilograms of humus fertilizer are needed to support 1 kilogram of wheat seeds, but he has no time to compost, so he can only hope that this fertile soil can support those wheat seeds. Of course, during the wheat growth period, Roman will apply top dressing according to the growth situation, about 50, 60, 70 or 80 kilograms. To ensure that the wheat will not starve to death during the subsequent growth process, there is no rush for this matter. After Roman gave the standard steps for sowing, he asked Moore and the stewards to supervise this matter. It is actually not difficult, it depends on whether you are careful. The standard is 30 kilograms of wheat seeds per acre and at least 100 kilograms of fertilizer. It took most of the day to finally notify everyone. First, the tasks were assigned, those who moved fertilizers, and those who transported wheat seeds, and placed them on each acre of land in advance. Each person was responsible for a certain number of acres of land. This distribution method was not complicated. Similar to the previous deep plowing, everyone was a link in the collective labor. As long as the basic execution ability was guaranteed, the efficiency could be greatly improved. Under the orders of Seth, the steward, Aaron, Green and others, these 700 or 800 people began to operate in an orderly manner. This production model was something that farmers of this era had never experienced before. Roman had already called together the 80 peasant women who were responsible for lunch and personally led them to make lunch in the fields. He also chopped more than 200 kilograms of wild boar meat, wolf meat, venison and bear meat that had been smoked, dried and pickled, and chopped them into large pieces, and threw them all into the big iron pot. Roman asked the blacksmith Lax to forge those large iron pots with the remaining iron ingots, which took several days. Moore asked the slaves to bring more than 100 kilograms of salt from home, since learning that Roman had found a salt mine on the land 30 or 40 kilometers away. The agricultural official had no choice but to contribute all the salt stored in his home. Roman was responsible for chopping meat and vegetables, and sprinkled a lot of salt without hesitation. The flames at the bottom of the pot burned fiercely, gradually emitting a rich meaty aroma that drifted a long distance, making the farmers who were bending over to sow and fertilize so hard salivate, and their hands moved much faster. After these days of adaptation, they also knew who the lunch was prepared for. It was not until 1 o'clock in the afternoon that Roman announced that the morning's work was over. Everyone lined up to get their meals. At this time, the second pot of meat was also out of the pot, emitting a hot and fragrant aroma. Everyone's wooden bowl was divided into a large piece of meat and a large spoonful of salty gravy, as well as a large amount of whole wheat bread. Chapter 43 Buying Food. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cooking Experience Plus 1. Cooking Experience Plus 1. Cooking Experience Plus 1. Roman stood in front of the chopping board and chopped large pieces of meat. Sowing is a very tedious process because it relies on pure labor. Either too many seeds are sown or too little fertilizer is sown, or the furrows are too deep or too shallow. Its efficiency is difficult to improve. Especially for those uneducated farmers, it is a skill-based job. Fortunately, it is not difficult to learn this technology, and you will be able to do it once you are proficient. Roman would rather go slower than see an acre of wheat seedlings with uneven, some dense and some sparse. That is not called intensive farming, but during this period, he will provide an extra free dinner so that they can complete the basic requirements for sowing. Roman can also use this to brush the experience points of the cooking skill. Large pieces of bones and meat, large pieces of onions, and large pieces of radishes are all thrown into or outside the wooden basin on the ground. It is not clean, but you will not get sick if you eat it. Under this 2-meal-a-day supply, farmers no longer have to eat their family's reserve food every day. They can just come to the public land to eat every day, and even bring the elderly and children here, and the food is rich, and they can even drink salty meat soup. But here comes the problem. After last winter, there was a shortage of food in Siggy Town, and there was not much food. If they save food, they will definitely be able to transition to July and summer. By then, this round of wheat and other crops will basically mature, just in time for the consumption of food rations, and no one in Siggy Town will starve to death. But since Roman asked for free lunch, the food consumed during this period is an astronomical figure in Moore's view. The daily consumption has reached an astonishing more than 1,000 kilograms. Although most of them are grains, miscellaneous grains, vegetables, etc., but this amount is here. It is not an exaggeration to say that they eat a working ox every day. That is a strong and fat ox, weighing about 600 kilograms, which can replace 5 or 6 laborers. That is a super valuable asset of Siggy Town. Even as an agricultural official, his daily meat staples are basically sheep, pigs, chickens and other livestock. Every year, he would only kill an old ox to enjoy the taste of beef occasionally, and give it to his relatives and friends. He would also feed the slaves he bought a few bites to show his appreciation for the past year. Now, Roman has to start providing a dinner again, and his consumption has doubled. The already tight food reserves have become even worse, so, knowing this, Moore had to come to Roman and explain the current situation. Roman stopped chopping vegetables, and after listening to him, he nodded and said, "You mean the landlord has no surplus food, right?" Moore wiped his sweat with a handkerchief. For some reason, every time he faced Roman's gaze, he felt sweaty. Moore bowed his head and said respectfully, "You are so accurate." He was afraid that Roman would question him, not believe what he said, and let the guards plunder all his property. The food was almost eaten up as he said, and there were only tens of thousands of pounds left, so Moore was not very afraid, but he was afraid of other problems. He had embezzled a lot of money over the years. If those properties were exposed, survival and destruction, it was a problem. Roman had never thought about it. He bowed his head and pondered for a moment, then looked at Moore and said, "If there is not enough food, then go buy it outside." Buy food? Moore was stunned. This is not appropriate. Sigg Town sells a large amount of food every year. Moore never thought about buying food from outside. He thought that after telling Roman about this, Roman would give up the free lunch and let the farmers bear the consumption of this food. The farmers' reserve food added up to more than his family. It is not a problem to plunder 100 or 200 kilograms of grain from each household, and it is not even a big deal. Doesn't this just fill the food gap? He is ready. As long as Roman brings it up, he will execute it immediately. If Roman can't think of this, he will give hints through indirect means to show the amazing wisdom of the Lord. What happened to you in the end? You failed at the critical moment. Are you still a noble lord? The real Roman Legia was robbed by you on the way to take office, right? The food has already fallen into their stomachs, so there is nothing wrong with asking them to provide food. You don't ask for a penny, and it's good enough not to collect food tax from them. Why do you have to buy food to feed these farmers? Roman glanced at Moore and said, "What's wrong with it?" He chopped the kitchen knife on the wooden stake with a bang. The huge sound immediately made Moore's little heart jump. Roman said in an unquestionable tone, "Bring all the merchants here to me." Roman didn't want to plunder the grain reserves in the farmers' homes. That thing is their lifeblood, and it is easy to cause public resentment. You can kill people, and the death of 10 people is not a big deal in this era, but you can't steal food. Your noble master wants to rebel. Not long, 5 merchants came to Roman. These people are small merchants who appeared in Siggy Town. They sell the output of Siggy Town, such as mountain products, furs, and agricultural products to the outside world to earn a meager profit, but Roman took away all the labor force, and their supply of goods was cut off, and there was no business for several days. Now he was called by Roman again, and he didn't know why. "Do you know the price of food?" Everyone looked at each other, lowered their heads and said, "I know, master." "How much grain is sold in Siggy Town every year? What is the selling price?" These small businessmen were keenly aware that Moore's face turned pale. This made their hearts beat. Will their next answer involve the fate of Mr. Moore? They didn't want to answer this question, but facing Roman's calm face and cohesive gaze, they felt their throats were dry, and finally said, "Perhaps, maybe 20,000 to 30,000 jeans are sold every year, and more than 2,200 jeans of grain is enough. Can be exchanged for 1 gold coin." He was extremely conservative. Roman didn't care about Moore, who collapsed on the ground. He continued to ask these businessmen, "What is the price of wheat now?" The small businessmen looked at each other. Finally, a businessman said, "It's the off-season now, and 1 gold coin can only buy more than 1,600 jeans of wheat. If it's the peak season, it can buy about 2,000 jeans." After Roman listened, he bit his fingers and thought for a moment, then he said, well, I need 100,000 kilograms of grain now. I want miscellaneous grains, vegetables, and cereals. You have to find someone outside to buy grain to meet my needs, but I will not give you profits. I will pay you wages. If you transport 1,000 caddies, you will get 5 copper coins, and if you transport 10,000 caddies, you will get 5 silver coins. As for your purchase principal, more will pay it. Chapter 44 Spring Ploughing ends. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman paused for a moment and looked around at the gradually stunned small merchants. He frowned. Do you understand? I understand, I understand. Everyone nodded hurriedly, completely stunned by this gift from heaven. They originally thought it was a bad thing, to help the Lord run errands, but now they are not only running errands, they are running to death. This is really too exciting. In short, Roman gave a target of 100,000 kilograms of grain. As long as they can complete it, they can get 5 gold coins, and there is no need to take any risks. There are only 5 of them in total, which means that they can get 1 gold coin on average. Gods. 1 gold coin can buy 2 oxen. As long as you work hard for more than 10 days, you can get 2 oxen. Who wouldn't be tempted? No matter how hard the target is, they have to bite it off. If they only purchase wheat, it may be difficult to operate. After all, wheat is the highest grade of grain, but if other grains, vegetables and cereals are added, there will be no problem. Therefore, the expressions of these 5 small merchants were a little ferocious, as if they were roaring, and their eyes were red. This indicator must be achieved. Roman turned his head and looked at Moore, frowning and shouting, "Shameful thing, stand up." Moore trembled and climbed up. When Roman was talking, he thought that the young master was going to settle accounts with him, and his heart stopped. It would cost about 30 or 40 gold coins to purchase 100,000 kilograms of cereals. For him, it was not considered a bankruptcy, but only a cesarean section. It was painful, of course, but compared with the pain of losing his head, Moore felt that he could bear this kind of pain of cutting flesh. Roman said, "You will arrange this matter. There can be defective grains in the grain, but the number of defective grains cannot be too large. Do you understand?" "Understand, understand, understand." Moore nodded continuously, and his handkerchief was soaked. The grains bought now are all old grains from last year. There is no guarantee that they will rot, grow insects, or get damp. This is to remind him to be more careful and not to be cheated. Roman sent them away. As an agricultural officer, Moore has been selling grain for so many years, so he must know more about this than him. These 100,000 kilograms of grain can only be regarded as a stopgap measure. They can last for about 1 or 2 months, and they will have to continue to buy grain in the future, but they can't always bleed the pigs. They need to find a stable income as soon as possible. By now, his family has little money left and he is so poor that he has to sell rubies. If this continues, he will have to mortgage the split armor bow. Without grain, he will not have the confidence to command others to do things according to his ideas. Roman thought for a moment, then continued to pull out the kitchen knife and chop vegetables and meat. The speed of sowing and fertilizing was faster than Roman expected. On the morning of the 3rd day, which was 21 days after Roman came here, these 700 or 800 farmers finished the task of sowing and fertilizing. Looking at the vast, neat ridges, the dark ground exudes a strong sense of flatness and neatness, and the whole land seems to be pregnant with great vitality. Almost all farmers find it incredible. Such beautiful and fertile fields, are they really cultivated by their own hands? They used to work hard, but it was impossible to complete the cultivation of these 2,000 acres of land in just a dozen days, let alone achieve this effect. Just changing the previous working mode can achieve such a huge improvement in efficiency, which makes them feel a different kind of shock. Many farmers stole a glance at the figure on the edge of the field. The man had a shawl and red eyes. He waved the kitchen knife in his hand expressionlessly, constantly cutting the onions and carrots on the chopping board into large pieces. There was also a thin girl next to him helping him put the cut vegetables into the pot, making a pot of vegetable soup mixed with white flour. Although 2 days have passed, they still feel awkward. The Lord actually cooked for them personally. Every piece of meat they ate was chopped by this noble lord, and Roman looked at the prompt of, "Cooking experience +1, that kept appearing on the panel. in this cold and ruthless slashing action, only the increase in experience value can bring him a little warmth. After all, he chopped vegetables for 2 whole days, and his heart was as cold as the knife. From morning to night, his arms were sore and the blade was blunt. The attendant chef Bob was heartbroken. Up to now, the cooking experience value has only been increased to 30 points, but it is still far from the level 2 cooking. Compared with other skills, the speed of cooking experience value increase is already very fast. This may be because this skill itself has no technical content and his efficiency is very fast. Innate chef holy body. However, the emerging cooking experience is still not enough for Roman to slap Green in the face, because it is only basic cooking knowledge, not too advanced cooking skills. Roman could only hope that after reaching level 2, he could teach Green, who looked down on his cooking, a lesson. Lord! A voice came from the side. Roman looked in the direction of the voice and saw a dark-skinned young man with his hands on his abdomen, respectfully waiting for his answer. Barrow, one of the 7 apostles Roman initially selected. However, Barrow was only a 1-star apostle, and his attributes were also a mediocre 5E panel, with only E+ in terms of physique. The skill is not related to combat. Barlow's skill is called diligence. When he works, he can improve work efficiency and reduce physical consumption. In Roman's opinion, this skill is useless. Any more experienced farmer would know this skill. This also means that Barlow has little development potential, and Roman has not approached him. It wasn't until he killed an old farmer named Matthew during the farmers' riot that he learned that Matthew was Barlow's father. Kill his father. Roman didn't feel guilty about this, nor did he feel guilty at all. He confidently appointed Barlow as the person in charge of these 2,000 acres of land. In the sowing process, this dark-skinned young man also played a directing role. Roman said, "Is something wrong?" After his father died, Barlow could only suppress his grief and devote himself wholeheartedly to the next work. Now he is finally free, he asked with respect, "Sir, is the farming of this common land over?" Roman nodded and said, "Yes, this year's spring plowing is over." The young farmer obviously did not understand what he meant. He said vaguely, "Then we are going to open up new land? The next few days are suitable for planting. I feel that there is still time to plant several hundred acres." Roman waited for him to finish and responded in a positive tone, "I say. This year's spring plowing is over." Barlow finally understood the meaning of this sentence. He was surprised. In his opinion, the sowing season had not passed yet and he should not stop. He hoped to make it clear to Roman that as long as they repeated the previous methods of deep plowing, sowing, and fertilizing, they could plant more grain. Even if the overall output was not as good as last year, no one would starve to death. But Roman was the first to hold his shoulders. "Shut up, I have more important things to do next. You are the person in charge of these 2,000 acres of land. I will arrange 100 farmers for you to take care of this land. If there is not enough manpower, I can also provide you with temporary help. You deploy labor, but I will not allow these people to be tied to this field for a long time. Don't make the same mistake as your father. Farming can be used as food, but it can only be used as food." Chapter 45 Bewitching. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman's voice was firm and his expression was calm, suppressing all Barlow's full words. The young man thought of his dead father. He lowered his head and said nothing. Feeling very sad, Roman gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder and told him to get lost. Picking up the kitchen knife, he chopped the vegetables with his hands. After preparing today's lunch, Roman shook his sore shoulders. He took Guile to find Seth. "Seth, let everyone take an afternoon off today. I am going to plan a route to the salt mine. Next, these people are going to build the road." Faced with Roman's request, Seth also knew the importance of the salt mine, and for once he didn't feel that Roman was in a hurry. "Master, you should also pay attention to your image. You have been cutting vegetables on the field for 2 days, which will make those farmers look down upon you. They will forget your majesty and will no longer be afraid of you. This is very important to the nobles. Very deadly behavior." Seth tidied up Roman's rolled-up sleeves, messy collar, and messy hairstyle. He made Roman look neat and tidy, and at the same time, he was still imparting noble experience. "Humph, what does this mean? I will tell those nobles in the future what the truly deadly thing is. Roman snorted, and Seth was immune to Roman's bullshit. I have no idea what this kid is talking about. Where was your butt when you said this? Under the leadership of Roman, the farmers who had been busy for nearly half a month finally got a half day of rest. Although the labor intensity is the same as before, it is still very tiring. Although the labor intensity is the same with and without standards, the effort required is different. Because the sowing ended in the morning, Roman announced in the morning that there would be only one lunch and no dinner today. This dispelled the little thought of the farmers who were working slowly. If they delayed the work until the afternoon, there was a high probability that they would get a free dinner. Roman wouldn't give them that chance. The spring plowing lunch is cancelled, but then the road building lunch begins again. On the big map of the story of life, Roman planned a specific route. He wanted to build a solid and durable road instead of a bumpy dirt road. Only people who have lived in this era know how bad the road conditions here are. The two factors of road conditions and vehicles greatly affect transportation efficiency. Siggy Town is relatively comprehensive in all aspects. After all, it has been developed for decades. In the entire town, there are more than 80 cattle, several draft horses, and a large number of various livestock including pigs, sheep, and chickens. Farmers with spare time will not refuse to raise these animals. After raising those poultry, selling them to more or other stewards, or selling them to businessmen is also an important part of the family's income source. Roman plans to build a wooden cart specifically for transportation. The amount of this project is relatively huge. Moreover, Roman didn't have any research on wooden carts. This would have to wait until he improved his manufacture skill, but the matter itself is not difficult, so he called in Vicky, a carpenter from Skytown. This man was very skilled in craftsmanship. He also made the wheels of the previous heavy plow, and many of the ox carts and horse-drawn carriages in Siggy Town were basically related to him. According to Roman's request, it is not difficult to design a transport vehicle with a simple structure. Anyway, it cannot escape the limitations of the times. It doesn't take much to pull a cart like this, according to Roman's expectation, 2 meters wide, 3 meters long. With a load of 1 or 2 tons, it can be pulled by a draft horse. It is essentially a modified ox cart. After learning about Roman's needs, Vicky said, "Master, this kind of thing is not difficult, but I don't know how many pull carts you need. 10 vehicles now, 100 vehicles in the future. I will use as many as I have. The most important thing for development is transportation," Vicky said nervously. "Sir, this kind of pull cart is very time-consuming. I can't build 10 pull carts in a short time." He still vividly remembers the scene when he was building a plow. He had to work as soon as he opened his eyes, and sometimes he didn't even have time to eat, which made him extremely haggard. Although the pay was staggering, if he maintained this intensity of work for a long time, Vicky felt that death would catch up with him faster than silver coins. Roman waved his hand, "Then let them divide the labor and cooperate. Pass on your carpentry skills, and carry out large-scale production. Your number of helpers will triple from today on." Vicky opened her mouth, showing no reluctance, and said, "It may take me 10 days to build the first pull cart." Roman said, "There's no need to rush this matter. I'll give you 1 month. Is that enough?" Vicky looked a little embarrassed. She had to work overtime. "After the matter is completed, I will pay you 1 gold coin separately as a reward. How about it?" Vicky's face jumped. "I will do my best." It seems that death is too late. Because what is chasing him is gold coins. Roman continued, "Vici, if you can't finish it, you can train a carpenter apprentice. As many qualified carpenters as you can train, I will give you the same number of gold coins. You can also tell Lux about this. If he can train a qualified blacksmith, I will give you double or even triple the gold coins." He had no hope for the production efficiency of the town of Seg, so he had to use some means to train more craftsmen and improve the production efficiency as much as possible. The carpenter in his 30s or 40s was immediately moved. He realized that 1 carpenter could not satisfy the appetite of the Lord. If that was the case, it would not be impossible to teach the carpenter's skills to others. Although his life as a carpenter was good, his income was low. He could only earn 1 gold coin throughout the year, and in most cases, farmers had to buy on credit, and Lax's annual income was at least 2 gold coins. "Vic, you don't have to work hard every day, you don't have to get up early and go to bed late, you just need to teach your skills to others. You only need to train 10 carpenters every year, and you can get 10 gold coins. The upper limit is 100. As long as you can train 100 carpenters, I can pay you 100 gold coins. If the previous sentence made Vicky feel moved, then this sentence directly ignited Vicky's heart and made his pupils tremble, like a meteorite falling into a lake, causing huge waves. He originally had 2 carpenter assistants and slaves who had worked in his carpentry shop for several years. If I could, he never thought that he could earn 100 gold coins in his life. Vic's lips trembled, his face turned red, and he gritted his teeth and said, I will obey all your orders, sir. He left the Origin Manor with his feet drifting. Chapter 46 It's Raining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Road construction is a big project. In Roman's opinion, the tediousness and difficulty of this matter is no less than spring plowing. He will lead people to carry out preliminary leveling along the route he planned. Roman likes efficient methods, so the route he planned is very straight, a straight line, which is convenient for transporting personnel and mined rock salt. This also means that they have to cut down trees along the way, move stones, fill swamps, deal with all shrubs and weeds, and even cross hills and streams if they encounter them. There is only one hill and a few small rivers about 3 or 4 meters wide along the way, not hard stone mountains and rivers. This 40-kilometer-long road must be at least 4 meters wide, because all the trees and vegetation on both sides of the road must be cleared. The actual width is about 10 meters, making the road view as wide as possible. For this purpose, Roman mobilized a large number of oxen, horses and vehicles, using the strength of these large animals to solve some problems that are difficult to solve with manpower. Even iron farm tools that were not suitable for road construction were used in this regard, completely ignoring their wear and tear. When the purpose of road construction was known, the farmers in Siggy Town accepted this heavy physical labor without any rejection. Even the most short-sighted people knew what a salt mine meant. That meant they would have salt to eat in the future and could use it to pickle vegetables. Roman himself could not do low-quality physical labor like those sweating farmers. He wanted to take people to dig stone mines. There were many stone mines in this land, but they were worthless and no one was interested in them, because mining stone mines is very labor-intensive. The place where more lived was just a wooden house. Unless it was a noble who wanted to build a castle, Roman was not going to build a large-scale project and waste manpower. Although the Origin Manor was simple, it was still okay. It was better to use all the resources to build roads. He knew that if a solid and durable road was to be built, earth, wood, stone and sand were indispensable. As the saying goes, if people walk a lot, there will be a road, but this kind of road is often not easy to walk. When people run over, the road is dusty. When it rains, the road becomes muddy and messy. The transportation capacity is greatly reduced, and even the wheels will get stuck in the mud. With a high wear rate, this is something Roman cannot tolerate. Even if it is just a layer of gravel, it is much better than a pure dirt road, and Roman hopes to burn lime. Humans have used lime as a building material many years ago. The calcined lime can be mixed with sand, loess, and straw to be used in road construction. It is not a durable material, but it can definitely meet Roman's basic needs. For roads, that kind of flat and hard road is much better than a bumpy dirt road. Roman turned all the hundreds of farmers he brought into quarrying. They have only 2 jobs, that is, to mine limestone continuously and to calcine continuously. It doesn't matter if the temperature of the firewood flame is unstable. It will always fall off after burning for a few more days, and lime is not burnt out. Construction experience +1. Construction experience +1. While Roman was working in full swing, his experience value of construction skill was also constantly improving. After 7 days, Roman's construction skill was also upgraded to level 2. This skill upgrade gave Roman some basic knowledge of construction, for example, cement, brick burning, house building, etc. However, these have no direct relationship with the road construction he was carrying out. Roman was not going to build a road that could be used for dozens or hundreds of years. His requirements were simple, that it could be used within 1 or 2 years, and if it was broken or damaged, he would send someone to repair it. Road construction was originally a stopgap measure. He was extremely short of funds, otherwise he would not be so anxious to mine salt mines. At present, a quarter of the road leveling work has been completed, and everyone has worked very hard, almost to the point of using all their strength, and no one has dragged their feet, that's salt. Hundreds of people continue to dig and fill pits in the swamp area, striving to compact a road that could be stepped on. The oxen and draft horses pulled the carts full of soil back and forth. To celebrate the improvement of his skills, Roman specially asked Seth to buy 4 domestic pigs from the farmers in Siggy Town. Because he had eaten all the game he brought from the mountains, he could only buy domestic livestock now. This kind of domestic pig weighing more than 100 kilograms is not expensive. The price is between 1 silver coin and 1.5 silver coins, much lower than the price of oxen and draft horses, and only slightly more expensive than the price of wheat. Roman slaughtered it on the spot, set up a big pot, separated the bones and meat with a knife, and began to cook the meat, throwing salt into it as if it was free. Domestic pork is more delicious than most game, although it has not been castrated and the meat is fishy, but in this era, it is already a rare delicacy. At least Guile ate it with relish, which made Roman feel that this girl, like other civilians who have suffered too much, has a bad taste bud, but on the other hand, Guile can taste the good and bad of food, so Roman could only attribute it to the fact that her past experiences had made this girl have very low taste requirements. Cooking experience +1, Roman stewed 2 pigs at the paving team, and also stewed 1 pig at the stone mine and salt mine as a reward. This meal of oil, salt, fish and meat greatly supplemented their physical consumption during this period, and slightly improved their subsequent work efficiency. Roman didn't pay much attention to the cost of food. He only knew that there was a gold mine waiting for him to dig in the future. As I said before, there is a long way to go. Of course, Roman didn't have to spend money to buy meat. As they went deeper into the primitive area, the probability of them encountering wild animals became higher and higher, which forced him to bring the split armor bow. He generously chopped the wild animals he shot into pieces and stewed them in a big pot, so those idiots could see a few pieces of unknown meat in their wooden bowls every now and then. Maybe it was lynx, beaver, or red deer, or even hedgehog meat, waterfowl, wild duck, etc. Anyway, there were many kinds. Hunting experience +1, this prompt would appear frequently. Cooking experience +1, cooking skill upgraded to level 2, level 2 cooking, 0 //380, milestone unlocked, chopping melons and vegetables, chopping melons and vegetables, get 500 raw stones. 2 more days passed like this. The experience value of hunting has been steadily increasing, but the first skill to reach level 2 is cooking. Half of the work of leveling the road has been completed. Because of the length of the supply line and the time spent on the road, the difficulty of leveling the road has become increasingly higher. It was also this morning. Roman's biological clock automatically woke him up at around 5 o'clock, but there was no light of dawn on the horizon, and it was still dim and dark. The body temperature was also lower than in the previous mornings. Roman walked out of the room, and the drizzle fell from the sky, blowing on his face with the slanting wind. He sighed as he looked at the gloomy clouds. This light rain seemed to pave the way for a subsequent heavy rain. Story of life has the function of predicting tomorrow's weather. Roman knew yesterday that it would rain today, and he made corresponding arrangements, but it was still raining tomorrow, which made him feel bad. It seems that there will be no way to repair the road in the next 2 days. Chapter 47, I thought it was normal at the time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Today is the 30th day since Roman came to Siggy Town. There was a heavy rain in Siggy Town. In the past month, there have been 3 or 4 rains on this land, but those rains were very light and could only soak the land. They had little impact on farming and labor, and they were still within Roman's acceptance range. Farmers are used to working in the rain, but today the rain was very heavy, as if the whole world was enveloped in a layer of mist. The spring rain is continuous, as thin as flower needles and ox hair, dense and continuous. It rained for a long time and showed no sign of abating. Roman took a rare nap. He had not rested for a day in the past, and his schedule was full every day. He was either plowing the ground, felling trees, or chopping vegetables. The workload was huge and fulfilling, and his whole body seemed to have endless energy. However, it is just an illusion. This flesh and blood body will eventually rest. When Roman woke up, he rinsed his mouth briefly and went straight to the hall. Today's lunch is grilled cod, roast suckling pig, stewed hare, butter bread, onion soup, cheese and dried fruits, etc. Aaron and Green were sitting on their chairs bored, and they didn't seem to have very high appetites. The two of them were also affected by the continuous drizzle, and rarely exercised or honed their martial arts, but Gwir was not affected by the environment. She stood on tiptoes, stretched out her little hands, and tried her best to stretch out her arms to tear off the crispy skin of the suckling pig. Aaron calmly pushed the roasted suckling pig on the big plate on the table, and Gwir finally caught it. She tore off a large piece of crispy skin and ate it happily with her eyes narrowed. Seeing Roman coming, the girl immediately ran over and handed over the crispy pig skin in her hand like a treasure. Roman just patted the girl's head, sat on the main seat, picked up a piece of butter bread and stuffed it into his mouth. He handed the glass of milk next to him to Gwil. "Drink more milk." Gwir nodded, picked up the glass of milk, and took a sip. Roman was originally planning to improve the breeding skill. Breeding is the main way to increase the production of meat, eggs and milk. Moore's family had 2 cows. After Roman came over, Moore quickly sent a large amount of wheat and other non-staple food to the Origin Manor, along with a cow, pigs, sheep and other livestock. This was also the reason why the Origin Manor was not short of milk, but in Roman's opinion, anything that can only meet the needs of a few people is not short of milk. It is not difficult to improve the breeding skill. You only need to feed the cattle and sheep with grass and take care of their daily lives. However, breeding and planting are long-term industries that will not bear fruit in the short term and will take a long time to develop. Roman is now short of funds. He needs to make a lot of money as quickly as possible, otherwise, he would not be able to continue to fool those stupid people. According to his estimate of the speed of infrastructure construction, it will take at least half a month. Before the road can be leveled and the work of mining rock salt and refining salt can begin, the road reinforcement work will not be completed until 2 months later. The calcined lime now is far from enough to pave this road. Roman had to find other ways to bridge the shortage of funds during this period and find something to do for himself. After finishing lunch, Roman distributed all the uneaten food to the male slaves, maids and others. Then he said to Aaron and Green, "If you are okay now, come over and do me a favor." Green complained, "You really don't stop at all." He thought that this spring rain would dampen some of Roman's inner excitement. Very simple. Roman and the two of them found all the containers they could find, and then took out hundreds of kilograms of wheat from the granary, and put that wheat in tubs and barrels to wash and soak. "Master Roman, what are you doing?" Gwir bent over, put her hands on her knees, and looked at Roman's movements curiously. Roman smiled and said, "Make something to eat." "Can I eat it?" Roman said with a smile, "Let's see how you perform. Then I'll come too." After Gwir said that, her foot suddenly slipped and hit Aaron's back, who was squatting to wash the wheat. Aaron squatted on tiptoes, and his back was hit. His knees instantly fell to his knees, and he fell into the barrel. Water splashed all over Roman's body. Green was about to stay away from them, but a wooden basin appeared behind him. He stepped down, and the wooden basin tilted up and hit the hollow of his knees. Green was caught off guard and fell backwards. The wooden basin rolled around in a circle, and then slammed to the ground with a bang. The atmosphere here suddenly solidified. Gwir looked at the series of tragedies caused by herself. She was so frightened that she didn't dare to move. Her eyes showed tension and fear. She looked at Roman with an expression that said she had done something wrong. Roman said with a tight face, "You performed well. You easily killed 3 knights. I will reward you with candy in a few days." He didn't want to laugh, but when he saw Aaron pulling his head out of the barrel, his hair was full of water drops and wheat grains, and Green's toad-like shape, Roman still couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha." Green sat up from the mud. Seeing their respective embarrassed looks, he couldn't help laughing at first, and then he also laughed. Aaron pursed his lips tightly, trying to maintain a serious and calm expression and control his trembling shoulders, but he still failed and had to laugh. They seemed to have become 3 sand sculptures at this moment, but they were only happy and comfortable in their hearts. The drizzle outside was drizzling across the sky, but the hearty laughter came from this granary, which spread far, far away and dissipated in the swaying wind and rain. No matter how many years have passed, Gwir will remember that spring rain and those laughters. All the panic and fear disappeared silently, And the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly, and she also smiled. This spring rain lasted surprisingly long. It rained for 3 days before the rain stopped and the sky cleared up. The air was fresh and refreshing. This spring rain also brought strong vitality to the land, irrigating the land, and the plants grew vigorously. The crops in the fields changed every day, fully nourished by the fertilizer. 7 days later, Roman poured the filtered, slightly muddy sugar juice into the big iron pot, while kept picking up firewood and throwing it into the bottom of the pot, while Roman kept stirring in the pot. The sugar juice boiled for nearly 2 hours. Finally, a viscous paste gradually took shape. Roman used a wooden spoon to put the paste into the wooden barrel prepared in advance and sealed it. Then the second pot, the third pot, the fourth pot. That day, the air of most of the Origin manor was filled with a rich and fresh fragrance. Roman used 200 or 300 kilograms of malt and several hundred kilograms of barley starch, and finally boiled more than 600 kilograms of maltose in the big pot, which was sealed in 20-30 kilogram wooden barrels. The remaining maltose weighed dozens of kilograms, which he kept separately for the Origin manor's own use. After cooling naturally, the maltose, which was originally somewhat thin, suddenly became viscous. Chapter 48 Maltose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman cut 2 snow-white wooden sticks from oak branches, inserted them into the maltose, stirred them gently with his hands, and soon a large ball of golden maltose was wrapped around the ends of the thin wooden sticks. He handed this thing to Guile. The latter smelled the sweet fragrance and eagerly opened his mouth to bite it. Roman sternly stopped this wasteful behavior. You are not eating it the right way. You have to stir it constantly and use your hands hard to make it turn white. Under Roman's guidance, Guile began to stir. Although her movements were a little unfamiliar at first, she quickly mastered the technique. During the pulling process, the maltose gradually turned white. Roman nodded happily, turned around and saw Aaron and Green gathered next to the wooden barrel of maltose. Snapped. Roman knocked down Green's ghost hand in time. Green's face became solemn, and he glared at Roman, as if he was about to draw his sword and face death in the next second. Roman's expression was calm and he said to Aaron, "Aaron, come and have a taste." Aaron nodded, took the wooden chopsticks handed over by Roman, wrapped some golden maltose in it, and put it into his mouth. His taste was quickly covered by the rich sweetness. Aaron's expression was somewhat immersed in it, which made Green more curious about the taste of maltose, and he couldn't help but swallow. "I'll try it too," Green said in a rough voice, like a rough pirate from the Arctic. Then his outstretched hand was knocked down by Roman. Roman snorted, "Even if I die in the swamp, I won't eat something that even a pig wouldn't eat." Green's body was shaken, and he turned to Aaron and said angrily, "Aaron, how can you talk to Mr. Roman like this, and why don't you kneel down and apologize?" Aaron glanced at him, and he finally understood why Roman was targeting Green. When will this bad mouth stop? He ignored Green's look for help and continued to make some maltose to eat. Fighting knights rarely eat such sweet food, so they should eat more fruits in summer. Although there is wild honey, honeycombs are relatively scarce in nature. Moreover, the Archduke's honeycomb could not fall into his mouth. The most incredible thing is that he witnessed the maltose-making process from beginning to end. "Brother Aaron, the way you eat candy is wrong, you have to stir it constantly," Guile corrected her. "Guile, this is how children eat, go ahead and play." Roman patted Guile's head. Guile said oh, nodded honestly, stood behind Roman, and continued to stir with her head. Maltose in it. As the cooking level increases, many recipes are unlocked, including how to make maltose. Green held his hands on his chest and said in a soft voice, "Master Roman, Aaron knows he is wrong. Please be merciful and let him go." When Roman saw this, he half smiled and said, "Knights in battle must have backbone." Green said in pain, "Do you want me to die?" Hearing this cruel ridicule, he became depressed and said dejectedly, "Master Roman, Green is dead. His biggest wish is to have a mouthful of sweet molasses before he dies. Can you satisfy his wish?" "Wishes? Now you know how good I am at cooking, right? You fart. This is not cooking at all." Green complained bitterly in his heart, but the situation was stronger than the situation, so he had to put on a pitiful look to gain sympathy. Ahem. At this moment, Seth's coughing sound came from the side, and he was used to this kind of farce. but now Roman had something to do. "Sir, Maury's caravan has arrived." Roman nodded, and he directed the male servants to move the 20 wooden barrels to the bullock cart, Burrow River Pier. Roman met Maury. The young businessman was a little emotional. He first bowed and saluted, and then said excitedly, "Dear Lord Roman, I have brought you 18 oxen and 28 draft horses." Roman was quite satisfied with this figure, and the progress of road construction could be greatly improved. Being able to acquire so many large animals in 1 month shows that Maury is very capable, Roman said, "but I don't have that much cash to pay you right now." When Maury heard this, he didn't panic, but just waited for Roman's follow-up words. Sure enough, he saw Roman pointing to the barrel on the ox cart behind him. "Let's see how much this kind of thing is worth." Maury followed Roman to the wooden cart, opened one of the wooden barrels, lifted the wooden lid, and pulled out the filament. Roman used a small wooden stick to wrap the filaments pulled out of the maltose and handed them to Maury. When the latter saw maltose for the first time, he thought it was honey, but soon discovered that the texture was different from honey, if honey exudes a natural sweet smell like flowers. This kind of honey has the aroma of green wheat. Maury frowned, somewhat. Unsure of the value of this maltose, then, Maury looked at the number of barrels on the car again, and his brows furrowed even deeper. "How much can you give me?" Maury hesitated and said, "Please forgive me, your honey is not as sweet as honey, and the taste is not as good as honey. The nutritional content is also not as good as honey." Roman said something for Morito in his heart. He said frankly, "I know, you just need to tell me the price." Maury hesitated for a moment and said, "For a barrel of honey, I can only give 1 gold coin." Roman also frowned. The value of luxury goods such as maltose was lower than he expected. Only people of the aristocracy could afford it. He originally thought that he could sell it for 2 gold coins, but Maury cut it in half. "This is also the first time I have seen this kind of product, so I can only estimate the price." Maury said, with the keen sense of smell of a businessman. Maury offered this price on the basis of leaving room for himself. This means that he is sure to buy at the original price and sell at the original price. It's nothing more than not making money, but a loss-making business must not be done. Of course, Maury thinks it is impossible for this thing to fail to sell. In this era, there are very few sources of sugar, and only certain fruits and honey can provide sugar. Even if maltose is not as good as honey, it can be a substitute for honey. The number of potential customers in this land is the entire upper class. Its shelf life is only 1 year. Roman explained the concept. Maury was not too surprised. Honey also has a shelf life. It is only longer than maltose due to improper storage. Luxury goods in this era have always been at a low ebb, compared with strategic materials. Maltose has no obvious advantages. This is a relatively barbaric and turbulent era, and trade development is not very prosperous. No nobles have made a fortune by relying on honey, and professional beekeepers have not yet appeared. Nobles usually find wild beehives and then send people to collect and harvest them regularly. There is no large-scale breeding. Chapter 49. I want them all. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Roman sold 600 kilograms of maltose for only 20 gold coins. Maury brought 18 oxen and 28 draft horses. Among them, the price of draft horses was 7.5 silver coins. 28 draft horses were worth 21 gold coins. In other words, the maltose Roman brought could not even exchange for 28 draft horses. The price of oxen was 5.5 silver coins. With a total value of 9.9 gold coins, draft horses are difficult to use in war, and at most they are used to transport supplies or pull carts, as Maury once said. Draft horses have poorer endurance, poorer physical fitness, and poorer farming efficiency than oxen. The yoke is put on the draft horse for a long time, which will make the draft horse difficult to breathe, and even die suddenly. For various reasons, the price of draft horses is not expensive, which is far from that of war horses. This batch of livestock totaled 30 gold coins. Even if Roman used barter, he could not buy these oxen and draft horses with maltose. The boast he had made earlier was exposed in an instant, but Roman did not feel embarrassed. He gestured and said to Maury, "Next time your merchant ship comes to Siggy town, I can give you 200 barrels of maltose. The production cost of this thing is surprisingly low, and it is convenient and fast. There is no reason for Roman not to produce it later. Anyway, there is plenty of wheat," Maury said incoherently. "Mr. Duo?" 200 barrels. 6,000 kilograms. He immediately realized that Roman Liegia had mastered the art of making sugar and named this honey maltose. Is this sugar extracted from malt? How many kilograms of wheat are needed to make 1 kilogram of maltose? If the cost is too high, how can it be mass-produced? Maury's frown relaxed instantly. He was shocked at first, and then fell into confusion. When countless thoughts collided, Maury instinctively said, if all 200 barrels of maltose flow into the market, its value will become very low. Roman didn't care how low the price could be, anyway, he was making money, but maltose was a new commodity, and he was a little worried that this approach would expose the town of Sigui, thus attracting many covetous eyes. This is not a good thing for the current town of Sigui. Forget it. Roman gave up this approach easily. Then Roman asked again, you should know what I'm doing now. Maury had communicated with the residents of Sigui before Roman came over. This is the habit of businessmen to know what happened in this land the fastest, and some of the news he learned from here made it hard for him to believe, so when he saw Roman, he was a little excited. You are building a road. Roman nodded, yes, I found a salt mine and I am going to mine it. Maury knew that this land contained a lot of wealth, so he was very confident and willing to invest regardless of the return, but he did not expect that the development speed of Sture town was too fast. Roman found a salt mine in just 1 month and almost leveled the 40-kilometer road. This efficiency is extremely amazing, even the marker fury that Maury had seen before could not be compared. Although the latter was also one of the 3 Grand Dukes of the Black Iron Kingdom and his actions were excellent role models, he still could not be compared with the extraordinary existence in front of him. Not everyone can find a way to make a fortune in such a short time with bare hands, he said anxiously. Can I go and see? Roman understood Maury's urgency. He found someone to take Maury to visit. Although it rained a few days ago, the flat land was still muddy and the ruts were messy, but it was generally unobstructed. Maury rushed all the way, and there were ox carts and horse carriages coming and going along the way. He soon saw hundreds of farmers working hard to level the road. This wide road has not been built to the end, and there is still a distance of 10 miles to go, but a small trail has been built in advance. Although it cannot allow large vehicles to pass, it can allow people to walk directly to the salt mine. Roman sent dozens of farmers there in advance to prepare for the work. They have to build a salt processing plant, clear the gravel piles on the surface, and dig several meters or tens of meters deep to dig a corner of this rock salt deposit. Compared with sea salt, mineral salt is pure, it has extremely high purity and few impurities. Even some rock salt itself can be used as coarse salt. When grilling or cooking, just rub it with a salt brick, but the consequence is that excessive consumption may cause salt poisoning. Therefore, it is necessary to carry out the processing of crushing, dissolving, filtering, boiling, etc., so that the fine salt after processing can be called refined salt, and there is no need to worry about safety issues. Rest assured, humans in this era will definitely die from other accidents before being poisoned, when seeing those high-purity rock salts and those huge crystals like ice cubes. Maury was very excited. He realized that this was a high-quality salt mine, and it was easy to mine, and the output in the future would definitely be very high. Salt is a strategic material, and no one does not value its value. To be precise, salt is only slightly worse than iron. This special mineral can even have an effect on some witches' spells. Therefore, the Church also attaches great importance to salt and regards it as a sacred object that can expel and purify demons. Influenced by this, slightly wealthier families will also buy these salts to expel demons and ward off evil spirits. Kings and nobles would also regard salt as a special currency and use salt, iron, wheat, fur, meat and other physical goods to deduct most of their military pay. Therefore, when Maury returned from the salt mine, his face was red and he kept saying okay. Roman asked, do you want salt or sugar? Maury took a deep breath and said the same words as Roman. I want them all. Roman was satisfied with Maury's answer. Okay, the price of those livestock will be deducted with salt. When you come to Sigui town next time, I will still give you maltose. As for the specific amount, it depends on how much you want to buy. As for salt, I will give it to you for the time being. I will sell it to you at a price of 0.1 copper coins per caddy without charging you any customs duties. After you transport 200,000 caddies of salt, I will increase the price to 0.2 copper coins per caddy and charge an additional 1 copper coin per 100 caddies. Do you understand the tariffs? Of course Maury can understand Roman's approach. The purchase price is the purchase price and the export tariff is the export tariff. Even if you buy a large amount of salt from a salt-producing place, you will be ordered by the local nobles to pay the corresponding duties when you leave that place. When entering another place, import duties will also be charged. The tariff of 1 copper coin per 100 kilograms of salt can be said to be very cheap. After all, salt is a necessity, and tariffs have a huge impact on salt prices. When the price of salt is stable, the purchase price of merchants is generally 0.2 copper coins per caddy. If there is more social unrest, the price will most likely increase to 0.25 copper coins or higher. For every 100 kilograms of salt purchased, an additional import and export tariff ranging from 4 to 6 copper coins will be paid, which increases the purchase cost in disguise. Therefore, many businessmen hope to find salt-producing areas with stable prices and low tariffs. P.S. Wheat is a high-grade grain. 1 pound of wheat is equal to 3 or 4 pounds of miscellaneous grains. The export price of 1 salt is equal to 4 wheat, and the market price is 1 salt equal to 20 wheat. The price Roman gave to Maury was 1 caddy of salt and 2 caddies of wheat, until Maury transported 200,000 caddies of salt, and then raised the salt price to the standard price of 1 salt equal to 4 wheat. Because the cattle and draft horses brought by Morera were free and given to Roman for free, they were exchanged for a low purchase price. Don't think that 200,000 pounds of salt is a lot. The Black Iron Kingdom has a population of tens of millions. What is the demand for salt in a society of tens of millions of people? If you think that the annual social demand is less than 5 million kilograms of salt, then there is nothing to say. Chapter 50 Emperor Yang of Sui 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Skytown certainly has that kind of stability. It is isolated from the world. Although it is remote, it is also far away from the whirlpool of war and has convenient inland waterway transportation. Merchant ships can reach this basin among the lofty mountains by passing through the Burro River and the Silver Dragon Canyon, and then go down the river, passing through the territories of many nobles, intersecting with other tributaries, passing by the northern land, and finally take advantage of the situation and enter the Arctic Sea, according to Maury's opinion of Roman. The young lord's mining volume for this salt mine will definitely not be small. Although this is a long-term trade, the 200,000 kilograms of salt cannot be sold instantly, and will most likely last until next year. For this purpose, he will recruit more manpower to continuously travel back and forth to this tributary of the Burro River. Bring more merchandise here, and ship salt out, but businessmen are only afraid of making no money and are not afraid of the hard work involved, not to mention the new Maltose. Small nobles may try it occasionally, but if a big noble takes a liking, they will definitely purchase sugar in large quantities, and they will not have to worry about sales in the future. After placing the draft horses and cattle in Siggy Town, Maury handed over 20 gold coins, turned around and left Siggy Town with 20 barrels of Maltose. There is no other way. The current salt mining has just begun and there is no production. The only option is to sell Maltose to prevent Maury from leaving empty-handed. The next time he comes over, he will bring more cattle and draft horses until he has transported 50 cattle and 100 draft horses to make up for the difference in the 200,000 kilograms of cheap salt. Roman did not calculate it for him. Detailed accounts, just a big calculation. The benefits of this big account are obvious. Once he sends those 200,000 kilograms of salt to the entire land, the low cost will make him a lot of money. This huge preferential price is equivalent to paying him 200 gold coins directly. A rough estimate is that you can earn more than 500 gold coins from profits alone. This income is considered good even among nobles. Most nobles only have 3-digit annual income, and he is just one of the heirs of a big businessman. After Maury's caravan left, Roman looked at the group of cattle and horses, and he was in a wonderful mood. This is a huge asset and is crucial to the development of Siggy Town. Because of the transportation, these animals looked a little lethargic. He had to properly house these large animals and make them comfortable. Agricultural Officer Moore ran over panting, with fat on his chest jumping. He came to Roman, wiped his sweat first, and then said, "Master Roman, I have prepared what you ordered." When Moore spoke, he looked at the large group of cattle and draft horses behind Roman. there are only more than 80 cattle in Siggy Town now. It's not that he can't afford more cattle, mainly because of identity. More thought of his father who died of illness many years ago. At that time, he was confused about his father's various decisions. When he came to this position, More understood his father's difficulties. Should Siggy Town be developed? Whether it is building bridges or paving roads, a large amount of manpower is required. The base family cannot act beyond their authority without permission. Their position is always that of stewards, not decision-makers. Even if they develop Siggy Town and gain a lot of profits, will the split armor family praise their actions? Think of the pioneer lords of more than 100 years ago. They reclaimed large areas of wasteland and turned it into fertile fields. However, after the Conqueror Emperor's fleet was lost in the underworld, the pioneering lords died of various sudden accidents because they did not have enough strength, and the nobles took them away. All the results of more than 10 years, develop together. Mutual benefit. What is your status and strength? Just turn over all your property and you'll be fine. Confused. I'll beat you to death, this is mine too. If Siggy Town is too prosperous and spreads to the ears of the armor-splitting Archduke, in the end, More hesitated and chose to lie down and sleep. Roman is not interested in Skytown's past at all. In his opinion, everyone in this era is an idiot and not worth caring about at all. This land certainly has rich resources, amazing potential, and various huge advantages, but Roman felt that with his ability, he could develop wherever he went, even if he is thrown into barren deserts and grasslands. As long as he survives and has the ability to move, he can lead a group of people to fight out like a barbarian and occupy a rich and privileged land. Development at the speed of light, fighting with war, whoever comes, who dies. Roman always believed that initial resources would only limit his development time, but not his ultimate achievements. Of course, the more initial resources, the better. He left the dock with more. These large animals have advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that they can greatly improve work efficiency and can plow more land in summer and autumn. The disadvantage is that more manpower is needed to take care of the new cattle and horses. There used to be more than 40 farmers working in the livestock shed. Their daily job is to take care of many large livestock. On average, one person is responsible for 2 cows. There is a management position called a cowherd, whose main responsibilities include grazing, cleaning up manure, harvesting grass, and taking care of young cattle. The labor of these people cannot be saved. Even during the deep plowing and sowing period, Roman did not call them out. Even now, he has to temporarily transfer 30 people from the road construction laborers to take care of these livestock. Not too many. Otherwise it will delay the work over there, and in the future, as Mori continues to transport livestock, there will be more workers to take care of the livestock. This is why there are more than 1,000 laborers in Siggy Town, but he can only mobilize 700 people in total. Whether it is livestock, mills, or various craftsmen, they can't be called out, otherwise, Siggy Town will be greatly shut down. Roman felt strongly dissatisfied with the past livestock sheds. They were dirty and slovenly, damp and cold, and in danger of collapse. The thatch rotted in the mud and stink bugs bred in large numbers. It was unsightly from all aspects. When Roman's construction skill was upgraded to level 2, he had the idea of building a new livestock shed. It was just because he couldn't spare the time, so he kept delaying it. Now that the livestock transported by Mori has arrived in Siggy Town, Roman knows that this matter can't be delayed any longer. He wanted to build a new, more scientific and sanitary livestock shed. The future breeding work should also be managed and planned in a unified manner. During this period of time, he had asked More to prepare a large amount of building wood and stone. The wood came from the large amount of wood cut along the way when the road was built, and the stone came from the stone mine. Once again, Roman felt the shortage of manpower. Of course, Roman knew where the problem was. There were too many things to do, and with an urgent attitude, he forced everyone in Siggy Town to speed up. If Roman died suddenly at this time, in the legend of Siggy Town's descendants, there would definitely be an evaluation of Emperor Yang of Sui too.